am Dr. Amuda from School of Management, Shastra University. I welcome you to this session, Inventory Control Techniques. In most of the manufacturing concerns, inventories are controlled through any one of the techniques. Now we shall see the techniques that are used by the manufacturing concerns to control the inventories. First is the economic ordering quantity, then determination of the levels of stock, inventory control ratios and indexes, aging schedule of inventory, input-output ratio analysis, perpetual periodic stock taking systems, order cycling system, two-bin system, selective control system, then material requirement planning, just-in-time and value analysis. We shall see about the inventory models that are used by the organizations. The basic problem of the management of inventory is to find out the ordering quantity so that it is said to be economical from the operational point of the manufacturing concerns. But there is a mutual conflict between the ordering cost and the carrying cost. So any inventory model should find out a minimum total cost which will be the sum of ordering cost and the carrying cost. So the total cost is minimum and the ordering cost and carrying cost will be equal to each other, then that point is said to be the economic ordering quantity. Now we shall see the different types of inventory models in brief. We will have two main kinds, that is deterministic model and probabilistic model. Deterministic models go with the certainty and probabilistic models go with the uncertainty. The deterministic models includes the fixed quantity system and the fixed period system. And the probabilistic model also has the fixed quantity system and fixed period system, but the only thing is it is not with certainty. We shall see the different models in detail in the coming session. Now we shall see what all the basic costs associated with the inventory decisions. There are four main costs: material cost, ordering cost, carrying cost and the stock out cost. First one is the inventory cost or the material cost. It is the cost of the material itself. It is the purchasing cost, that is the value of an item in its unit purchasing cost. This cost becomes significant while availing the price discount. This cost is normally expressed in terms of the monetary cost per unit, that is rupees per unit. While calculating the material cost, the opportunity cost should also be taken into consideration. The amount invested in an item, that is the cost of capital, is an amount of capital not available for other purposes. So any amount that is invested in the material can be utilized in a better manner in some other source. So the act of sacrificing that alternative source, the benefit of sacrificing the alternative source is called as the opportunity cost. So if the money were invested somewhere else, a return on investment is expected. A charge to the inventory expenses is made to the account for this return not received. The amount of charge reflects the percentage of return expected from other investment. Next one comes with the ordering cost, otherwise called as procurement cost. These costs are associated with purchasing and ordering of materials, that is processing and generating an order with its related paperwork. They consist of the following elements of cost: rent for the stores or rent for the space that is used by the purchase department, salaries payable to the purchasing staff, then all the stationery cost concerned with the purchase department, then cost of inviting the quotations, the cost of issuing the tenders, then cost of processing the quotations, cost of placing and purchase order, then for expediting the orders, what are all the actions that is taken? Say for example, in case of some postage is made or some other telephone calls that have been made, etc. Then travelling expenses, depreciation of furniture in the purchase department. Yes, entertainment and refreshment expenses to the vendors, legal and court fee to the legal matters arising out of purchase. So these are all the items related with the ordering cost. That is, rent for the space used by the purchase department, salaries paid to the purchasing staff, paperwork, the cost of issuing the tenders, inviting the quotations, cost of processing the quotations, cost of placing the order, then the cost of expediting the orders, travelling expenses, depreciation of the assets in the purchase department, the entertainment and refreshment expenses to the vendors, and the legal and the court fee to the legal matters which are arising out of the purchase. It may be noted that most of the ordering costs are fixed in nature and they do not vary proportionately with the changes in the levels of inventory. The ordering costs are calculated as the average cost per order, depending upon the nature of the company's operations. Annual procurement cost varies with the number of orders, and this implies that procurement cost will be high if the item is procured frequently in small quantities. The inventory carrying costs are incurred for carrying the inventory or maintaining a particular level of inventory. These costs consist of the following elements. First one is the financing cost. If the inventory is financed by bank borrowings, the interest paid on such bank loans is its financing cost. If on the other hand, inventory is financed out of the company's own funds, the financing cost for the inventory should be taken as the rate of interest which these surplus funds would have been earned for the company had they not been used to finance this inventory. That is opportunity cost of capital. Such a rate of interest which is foregone is called as the opportunity cost. Next is the insurance charges. These are incurred for protecting the company against the loss of inventory due to fire, theft, etc. Then property taxes. As with the insurance, property taxes are also levied on the assessed value of the firm's assets. The greater the inventory value, the greater is the asset value, and consequently higher is the firm's expenses on tax. Storage expenses. These include salaries payable to the storekeeping staff, rent for the space, cost of storage facilities like bin, rack, shelf, etc., lighting, cooling and other expenses incurred when the inventory is stored. Handling expenses. They are incurred for moving the inventory from one place, that is the stores, to the shop floor and back to the stores. Certain handling expenses may become necessary for the movement of inventory, especially work in progress from one section to another section on the shop floor. Cost of deterioration, spoilage and pilferage. For many items, there is usually a specific shelf life, such as drugs, chemicals, photofilms, etc. If the expiry date is over for these products, they become totally useless. Even otherwise, there may be items which deteriorate fast if they are kept on the shelves for a long time, even though no specific expiry date is mentioned. Next is the cost of obsolescence. Industries which are fashion-based, such as ready-made apparels, or technology-oriented, such as the manufacture of electronic calculators, incur a heavy loss if their products become obsolete. So, one can know about the inventory carrying cost from the above subdivisions, namely financing cost, insurance cost, property taxes, storage expenses, handling expenses, cost of deterioration, cost of obsolescence. So from this, a person can know that nearing 15 to 30% of the investment in inventory constitutes the carrying cost. Therefore, it may be a realistic one to determine the inventory carrying cost to be around 30% in the prevailing condition. It is also worth noting that all these expenses, barring a part of storage expenses, vary directly with the level of inventory maintained. If the inventory level is increased, the carrying cost will naturally go up proportionately. These costs are said to be arbitrary and vary from industry to industry and from item to item in the same industry. The next one is the stock out cost. They are invisible but said to be an important cost which a company has to incur if there is a stock out, resulting in a loss of production. These costs are in the form of a loss of profit on the lost production, on the loss of goodwill, adverse impact on the future orders, and adverse impact on the machinery utilization because of the lack of its use. Stockouts will definitely end up with a poor service. Say, for example, if a special type of grinding wheel which is not readily available in the market goes out of stock, and if the production loss until the stock arrives is rupees 20,000 and the stock out cost is 20,000, even though the wheel may cost only rupees 1,500. That is, the wheel cost is 1,500, but because of the non-availability of that particular wheel, the production has been stopped and the loss of production is 20,000 rupees. Now the stock out cost is 20,000. So even though the cost of a particular item or a particular material is said to be very less, but if it is said to be a vital one here means without which the production cannot be carried out even for an hour or even for 30 minutes. So in this case the production will get stopped. So when the production is totally hindered or when it is come to a stoppage condition, so in this case that is a suspension of the production will be made because of the non-availability of this vital item. There will be a loss in the production. So the cost or the loss incurred due to the stoppage of production will be the stock out cost. The stock out cost may vary from item to item and the significance of its item in the production. Some items may be vital, as I said, it may be the production may be stopped even if it is not available for 30 minutes, and certain items we call it as essential. So these items will affect the production only after a day. Say for example, these are essential items are not available, then the production can be managed for a day. But when we come to desirable, the production can be managed for a week. So we have vital, essential and desirable. So this is also one of the selective control inventories control system, wherein the items are based on vital, essential and desirable. So vital items are highly required, essential items can be managed for a day and desirable items can be managed for a week. So the inventory control or a system can also be made based on this red analysis, vital, essential and desirable. So these items non-availability may affect the production even for an hour or for a day or for a week. Then the loss in the production will be the stock out cost. So if the shortage of a spare part or a tool causes the production to held up and if the item concerned can be obtained only against a prolonged delivery, then the stock out cost is very high. Whereas if the item is available or its substitute is available, then the stock out cost can be minimized and even the stock out cost can be made negligible. So the management should try to reconcile between the cost of holding the inventory and the cost of not carrying the inventory. So in expectation of the non-availability of the materials, the production manager may hold the inventory as a safety stock or for a buffer stock. So in this case the cost of carrying will be high, but some other case the cost of not carrying, that is the stock out cost, may be high. So the cost of carrying can be estimated by the management on the basis of sales of your previous years, but the cost of not carrying enough or only the rough estimates. So the stock out cost cannot be correctly estimated. So the stock out cost and the carrying cost are said to be a counterbalancing one. The larger the safety stock, the larger will be the carrying stock and vice versa. Conversely, the larger the stock, the smaller will be the stock out cost. In other words, if the firm minimizes the carrying cost, the stock out cost will likely to raise. Suppose if the carrying cost is high, then the stock out cost will be less. So both are said to be two extremes. Now, the attempt should be made by the production manager to minimize the stock out cost. That doesn't mean that the carrying cost should be exceeded or the carrying cost can be increased. So the main objective of a material manager should have a lowest total cost. Total cost here means the carrying cost and also not carrying cost. Not carrying cost is the stock out cost. So appropriate level of buffer, appropriate level of safety stock is to be determined to make a balance or a trade-off between the carrying cost and also not carrying cost. Now we shall see about the differences between the excessive stock and the stock outs. So the cost of carrying may increase the interest on the inventory, interest on the investment in the inventory. Then it increases the insurance charges, warehousing and storage charges, material handling and clerical charges. The deterioration and spoilage will be very high. The rate of obsolescence will be very high, and we have the many increase in the cost of property taxes and the personal cost. Now, the cost of not carrying the inventory enough, that is enough means sufficient, is to be the foregone quantity discounts. So we are not availing the quantity discounts, disturbing the production schedule, inability to meet the customer's requirements, the loss of profit on the lost sales, loss of customers' goodwill, then foregone future purchases and the emergency purchasing cost. So the inventory cost will consist of the material cost, ordering cost, carrying cost and stock out cost. Stock out cost is the cost of not carrying the inventory sufficiently. Next is the economic ordering quantity. The economic ordering quantity is the optimal ordering quantity to minimize the total cost related to the ordering, receiving and holding the inventory. This EOQ model is best applied in situations where demand, ordering and holding costs remain constant over time. But it has its important limitation that it assumes a demand for the company's product is constant over the time. Next comes the economic batch quantity. It is also called as optimal batch quantity or economic production quantity, and it is a measure used to determine the number of units that can be produced at a minimum average cost in a given batch or a production run. The economic batch quantity model or a product lot size model is similar to the economic ordering quantity model in that the optimum is to be calculated for the batch quantity to be produced. It is the order size of a production batch that minimizes the total cost. Hence, batch cost is used to determine the cost per unit or the articles per unit. Determination of the stock levels. The demand and the supply method of stock control technique determines the different levels of stocks, namely maximum level, minimum level, reorder level, average level and danger level. Now we shall see each and every level in detail. First comes the maximum stock level. This stock level represents the quantity of inventory above which the stock should not be kept. This quantity is fixed keeping in view the disadvantages of overstocking. The main disadvantage of overstocking is the working capital is locked up unnecessarily in stores and the interest have to be paid thereon. So blocking of working capital in the inventories, and once again the interest on the working capital that is blocked is said to be an unnecessary expenditure. And once again, in case of overstocking, storage space is required more of storage space is required, and again the rent, insurance charges and other connected carrying cost will be incurred. Then there may be a risk of a deterioration in quality, and again depreciation in quantity due to evaporation, rusting, shrinkage, etc. Even the risk of leakage is there. So the risk of deterioration in quality and the quantity is there. And the risk of obsolescence is also there. Risk of obsolescence given the stock may become obsolete or out of date due to the changes in the technologies or changes in the methods of use, etc. And we have the risk of loss due to breakage, theft, excessive consumption, etc. Suppose if the workers are not properly trained, they may consume it in excess, they may destroy the equipment materials as it is available in abundance. They don't handle it scientifically or as per the instructions. And there may be a possibility of subsequent falling in prices in the market also. So these are all the major disadvantages of overstocking. The blocking up of working capital, the interest on the working capital, more of storage space, and other connected carrying cost, namely rent, insurance and other carrying costs, the risk of deterioration in quality, quantity deterioration, then the risk of obsolescence, the risk of breakage, excessive consumption, the theft and the risk of falling prices. So these are all the major disadvantages of overstocking. So the overstocking need not be made in an organization, and the maximum level above which the stock should not be stored. That's why the level is fixed. Then there are certain factors that may help in deciding the limits of the inventory to be stored. What are the factors? First one is the amount of capital available and required for purchases. What is the exact amount of capital available to the purchase department and what is actually required for the purchases. Then the storage facilities and the cost of storages, the rate of consumption of the materials in the production departments, the possibility of changes in the technologies, changes in the fashions and the changes in the habits of your customers, then restrictions imposed by the government or any local authority or any trade associations with regard to the materials which are having inherent risk of fire, explosion, etc. Then economic ordering quantity and the lead time. So these are all the factors to be taken into consideration while fixing up the maximum level. The amount of capital available, the storage space available, and what is the rate of obsolescence and what is the rate of consumption by the production departments, and once again the government restrictions or the government conditions regarding the usage of materials having the inherent risk and the economic ordering quantity and the lead time. Based on these factors, we derive the formula maximum stock level is equal to reorder level plus reordering quantity minus minimum consumption into minimum reorder period. The reordering quantity is said to be the economic ordering quantity which will minimize the total cost, and that will be the minimum point in your total cost curve, wherein the ordering cost and your carrying cost are equal. In this storage of materials, the carrying cost is high when the units are stored at a very high level, but the ordering cost is less as it is purchased in a single order. But when these units are to be purchased in smaller units, the ordering cost will be more and the carrying cost will be less. So to strike out the balance between the carrying cost and the ordering cost, and to have a minimum of the total cost, which is the sum total of these two costs, then that is said to be the EOQ, economic ordering quantity. Reorder level, we'll see it in detail, that is the level at which the order to be made. It is the point at which the order to be placed, and we have the minimum consumption and the minimum reorder period. Reorder period is the supplier may take from 2 to 3 weeks. So 2 is the minimum reorder period and 3 is the maximum reorder period. Now we'll see to the lead time. What is meant by lead time? This lead time is a term frequently used in the materials management. What does this mean? It is said to be the interval between the perception and the fulfillment of the need. Two different but related variants are the procurement or processing lead time and the manufacturing lead time. The former will be dealt with the materials storing, and the later will be discussed in the procurement stage. What is the actual procurement to be made? The procurement lead time is not necessarily the same as that of the delivery lead time, because it includes the time required to place an order and the time to receive the goods in an appropriate store. From the time the requisition for an item is raised, it may take several weeks or months before the supplies are received, instructed and taken into stock. This is said to be the procurement time or the lead time, and it involves the following activities: raising of the purchase requisitions, then issuing the tenders, receiving the quotations, then scrutinizing the quotations and going for the approval of the quotation, then placing of order on the suppliers, then the time needed by the suppliers to make the goods ready that may be manufactured or supplied, the time for the transportation and clearing, the receipt of the materials by the company at its own place, time for unpacking the goods, the inspection and verification of materials, the time for the movement of goods to the stores, then the time for entering the goods into stocks, then issue of materials and carry them to the place of work. So right from receiving the purchase requisition till the materials are transferred to the production departments for use, this time is called as the lead time or the procurement time, the time required to procure the materials. So from the identification of the need by the production departments till the materials are supplied to the production department, we have all these actions: receiving of requisitions, based on requisitions we are going to place the tenders, based on tenders the quotations are received and they are evaluated, then the best quotation will be selected, then placing on order, the suppliers are making the goods as per the order, transporting the goods, receiving the goods at the buyer's place, unpacking the goods, instructing, verification, then arranging it in the stores, issuing to the production departments. So the time taken to carry all these activities will be calculated, and it may be 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it depending upon the nature of the organization and the nature of the materials to be ordered. So this is called as the procurement time. The basic word says that the time required for the procurement. So the lead time required to procure any item can be divided into two main parts. namely internal lead time and external lead time. This internal lead time is called as administrative lead time, and the external lead time is said to be the delivery lead time. So the total lead time is the addition of administrative lead time and the delivery lead time. Administrative lead time is the time taken internally, and the delivery lead time is taken by the supplier himself, that is the external. So internal lead time, ordering time, plus the delivery time, namely the external lead time, plus the receiving time, that is also an internal lead time. So ordering time and receiving time is internal, delivery time is external. Therefore the lead time is equal to ordering time plus delivery time plus the receiving time. I'll again repeat it. This ordering and receiving is internal, delivery is said to be the external one. It is also a common belief that external lead time should be controlled and reduced, but in practice, the internal lead time constitutes a considerable part of the total lead time, and there is a scope for reduction of lead time only internally. The management must make a determined and a deliberate offer to reduce the lead time by selectively delegating the powers, adopting a better work procedures, fixing up the targets for the individual activities. So the internal time, lead time, can be controlled. In order to receive the supplies before the stock reaches to the zero level, it is always necessary to order the materials well in advance. That is, when the stock available is sufficient to the last during the lead time. The lead time can also be divided into another two parts, as buyer's time and the supplier's time. Buyer's time includes the time required for raising the purchase requisition slip and sending it to the product purchase department, obtaining the quotation, preparing a comparative schedule, raising the purchase order, reaching the same to the supplier, awaiting supplier's acceptance of the order, the transit and the clearing time when the goods are sent from outstations, then inspection of the materials after the arrival, sending the materials to the appropriate stores, recording the receipts on the stock control cards, etc. So this internal buying time is the buyer's time. Internal lead time is the buyer's time, put it in a different word. The supplier's time or the delivery time includes the time required to make the materials ready, that is the external lead time. So he has to make the materials ready if they are not in stock for transporting them from supplier's go down to the buyer's receiving section. So the lead time may vary from group to group, even from item to item. For readily available items, the lead time will be very less. It may be in days. Whereas if it has to be specially manufactured, the lead time may be longer. And sometimes for the goods which are to be imported, the lead time will be still longer. Lead time schedules. The stock control or the purchase section should maintain that time schedules for all groups of materials. The lead time schedule should be received at regular intervals, and if there is an increase or decrease, if any, lead time, the order or reorder level of the item should be altered accordingly. So maintaining the lead time schedules will have a guidance to the purchase department. Next is the cycle time. This is the interval between the deliveries when bulk orders are placed. Suppose if the order is placed for 24,000 pieces of an item, with the instructions of the delivery should be effected at the rate of 2,000 pieces per month, then the cycle time is 1 month. In such cases, safety stock or minimum stock is generally calculated on the basis of the cycle time, because in the ordinary course, suppliers would have already commenced the manufacture of the item and the delivery will be only in respect of the interval between two deliveries. So this is called as the cycle time. So this maximum level should take into account the lead time also, and the lead time may be internal lead time and the external lead time. While taking about the lead time, the cycle time, the number of orders to be placed will also be taken into consideration. Next is the reorder level. Reorder level or the order level is the point at which the storekeeper should initiate the purchase requisition for the fresh supply of materials. This level is fixed between the maximum level and the minimum level in such a way that the difference of the quantity of materials will be sufficient to meet the reorder level, and the minimum level will be sufficient to meet the requirement of the production up to the time the fresh supply of materials is received. So the reorder level is fixed in between the minimum and the maximum level, and the difference in the quantity of materials must be sufficient to meet that reorder level, and the minimum level will be sufficient to meet the requirements of the production up to the fresh supply of materials is received. So while you wait for the fresh supply of materials, the minimum level will be sufficient enough. Now say for example, there will be a maximum level and we have a minimum level. Average level will be in between that, minimum level plus half of reordering quantity. Average level will be in between that. Sometimes we can have maximum plus minimum by 2. But the best method is minimum level plus half of reordering quantity. That will be the average. This reorder level will be below the average. Right? It is the level at which the storekeeper has to initiate the purchases. So the difference between the minimum level and the maximum level is the reordering quantity. That is economic ordering quantity. What we are saying here is, when the materials are ordered, that is based on EOQ, the minimum level will be sufficient to meet the production till the fresh delivery is made. That is the word here we say. Reorder level is fixed between minimum and the maximum level in such a way that the difference of the materials will be sufficient to meet the reordering level, and the minimum level will be sufficient to meet the requirements of production up to the time the fresh delivery is received. Next comes the minimum stock level. This represents the quantity below which the stock should not be allowed to fall. This is also known as safety stock or a reserve stock or a buffer stock. The main purpose of this level is to ensure that the production is not held up due to shortage of any material. This level is fixed after considering the following factors. The rate of consumption. It may be a minimum rate of consumption or maximum rate and the normal rate of consumption of materials. Lead time. Degree of safety that is desired depending upon the risk of service failures and the cost of such service failures. So we must have 3 significant conditions, that is fluctuations in demand with a constant lead times, then fluctuations in the lead times, the demand being constant, and the fluctuations in both. So apart from the lead time and the rate of consumption, the manufacturer must see to the manufacturer here, I mean the buying department, must go and see about the fluctuations of demand in the market with a constant lead time, or when the lead time changes with a constant demand, and when there is a fluctuation in both the factors, namely the lead time and the demand. So this is not very easy to decide about the safety stock. The more the safety stock, the less will be the stock out cost. The less will be the availability of working capital for the business purposes, and the associated costs will also go up proportionately. If the safety stock is very low, the inventory carrying cost will also be low, but stock outs will be very frequently experienced and stock out cost will be very high. The cost of running out of the stock will often difficult to assess, and the stockouts may also arise due to the following factors: the consumer dissatisfaction, the loss of production, idle time of the machineries and the men, the emergency purchases at high prices, the extra transportation charges for the speedier modes of transportation. Therefore, while deciding the safety stock level, one has to arrive at an economic balance between the quantity of safety stock on one hand and the cost of stockouts and inventory carrying costs on the other. If the management decides it could not run out of stock on more than 2% of the orders, in other words, the management policy is that 90% of the orders should be met from the stock. So the defined service level is 98%. Now we have to decide what is the service level with which one can work and what kind of safety stock has to be maintained to meet the service level. The safety stock is needed because of this uncertainty. Uncertainty consists of uncertainty in demand, uncertainty in delivery, that is the lead time, uncertainty of the quantity, and how much of scrap you are going to need. So these have to be ascertained before getting into the level of safety stock. The minimum level can be ascertained as follows: reorder level minus the normal consumption into normal reorder period. The safety stock can be calculated as follows. It varies directly as a square root of delivery time. Consumption varies and it is adjusted according to the degree of safety desired. Safety stock is equal to K into square root of E. K represents the value of constant which varies from 1 to 4 depending upon the degree of safety desired, which can be obtained from the statistical tables available for this purpose. D represents the average consumption during lead time. So safety stock is equal to K into square root of average consumption during lead time. High and low levels of inventories. For effective inventory management and control, it is essential to classify the inventory into 6 major categories: raw materials, work in progress, components, consumable stores, finished goods, and the packing materials. This inventory management has two conflicting goals, that is, not to have a high inventory level and not to have a low inventory level. We shall see about the benefits of keeping a high level of inventory and also the low level of inventories. First, we shall start with the raw materials. What are the benefits of having a high level of inventory? Protection against the lack of supply. So if the supplier is supplying only in limited quantities, then having a high level will be a buffer. Bulk discounts can be had from the suppliers. Lower transportation and then ordering cost. Better utilization of the import licenses and better utilization of the quotas allotted by the agencies. Coming to the low level of inventories. Having low level of raw materials will decrease the carrying cost. It reduces the risk of deterioration or the risk of obsolescence, and it reduces the storage space and decreases the handling and the insurance cost. Passing on to the work in progress. High level of work in progress will safeguard against the machinery breakdowns, and they have a longer economic production runs and lower machine setting up cost. Once the machine is set up, can go for the production. The benefit of having a low work in progress is reduced inventory carrying cost, and it will have a more elbow room in a factory premises. Coming to the component parts. Having a high level of components will have a smooth and uninterrupted production runs, but low level of component parts will reduce the carrying cost. High level of consumable stores have a proper machine-fed production runs, but low level will again reduce the carrying cost. The finished goods. Higher level of finished goods will have a better customer satisfaction as well as a continuous flow of materials, and they have an incentive to the sales department also to the increased sales. But low level of finished goods will reduce the inventory, less risk of the obsolescence, less risk of deterioration, and there is a reduced storage space. Regarding the packing materials, high level of packing materials is said to be a protection against the deterioration, but the low level will reduce the carrying cost. So the minimum level, maximum level can be illustrated with this diagram. We have zero level at the last, then we have a danger level, and then we have a minimum level. Maximum level is said to be at the top. Average level is minimum plus half of reordering quantity. Reorder level will be a level below this average level. So the difference between minimum and maximum level will be the reordering quantity. So reordering quantity will be the difference between minimum and maximum level. The minimum level is said to be the level which has to be sufficient enough to carry on the production till the fresh supply is received. Next comes the danger level. It refers to a point at which the issuing of materials is stopped unless under specific instructions. This level is generally fixed below the minimum stock level. When the stock of the materials reaches the danger level, the purchase officer should make special arrangements to get the materials at any cost. The practice in some of the firms is to fix the danger level below the reordering level itself and above the minimum level. If an action for purchase of an item is initiated when the stock reached the reordering level, the danger level is of no significant concept. That a check with the purchase department may be made as soon as the danger level is reached to ensure that everything is alright and that the delivery will be made on a scheduled date. It will be seen that while fixing a danger level below this minimum level is meant for taking a corrective action, but danger level fixed above the minimum level is an indicator of a preventive action. The danger level will be the maximum rate of consumption minus the average rate of consumption into the lead time. Otherwise, the minimum rate of consumption into emergency delivery period. It is a point of no return after which a stock out is said to be inevitable if any delay occurs. The purchase department should take any one of the following actions in this case. Find an alternative sources of supply. Use the list of approved suppliers and find out the desired information in a very quick manner. Request the sales department in turn to warn their own customers of possible delay in supplies. Inform the production personnel about the situation so that they can revise the production plan and concentrate on the manufacturing items for which the materials are available. Apply extra pressure on the supplier to keep its own original delivery dates. The importance of having a second supplier cannot be overemphasized here. Next, we can pass on to the working stock. Working stock is a quantity available for regular use, but it does not include the minimum stock. It is directly related to the date of delivery. If an order for 6,000 pieces of an item is delivered in 6 monthly installments of 1,000 pieces each month, the working stock is only 1,000. As in case of minimum stock, the working stock should be kept as low as possible to avoid a high inventory. This can be done by staggering the delivery. Unlike in case of minimum stock, the inventory carrying cost is calculated by half of the working stock. That is the average working stock. Average working stock is calculated to the half of the rate of delivery. If the monthly requirements and delivery items of 1000 pieces, the stock varies from 1000 to 0 pieces. So the average working stock is 500. Then the 0 level or nil stock level. This level indicates that there is no stock of products in the organization. We have seen the different levels of stock: maximum, minimum, average, reorder, danger, and then the nil level. The revision of all these levels is periodically made on the pattern of the production or the supply position of the materials, the lead time, the market conditions, the inventory policy, and the availability of the working capital. If the prices are expected to change substantially, the quantity purchased at the time may be different from the normal purchase quantity, that is the UOQ, and consequently reordering level and reordering quantity may have to be changed. Easy availability may result in the lowering of reorder level since the lead time will be very less. Any danger of obsolescence may also influence the reordering level. Changes in the manufacturing processes, lead time, obsolescence, and inventory policy will necessitate the revision of the levels. Now we shall sum up with the formulae for the different stock levels. Maximum level is equal to reorder level plus reordering quantity into minimum usage into minimum reorder period. Reorder level is equal to maximum consumption into maximum reorder period. Minimum level is equal to reorder level minus normal consumption into normal reorder period. Average level is equal to minimum level plus half of reordering quantity, otherwise an average of maximum plus minimum. Danger level is minimum rate of consumption into the emergency delivery time. So far we have seen some of the inventory control techniques. In the next session we shall see the rest of the techniques. Thank you.